The golden age of The Simpsons, as seen by fans and critics, spans from seasons 3 to 8, the peak being season 4, and if you force it down to one single episode before the series became bloody awful, across critics' lists, fan polls, and retrospectives, Marge vs. the Monorail is most frequently ranked number 1. But why is this episode the greatest?
Now can't you give me a straight answer anymore?
Well, virtually every line is a joke, but every joke explains characters and advances the plot. There's no filler and no weak B plots. Most sitcom episodes have an A plot.
Well, they're out of sight. Wonder how long it'll take till they're out of mind.
A B plot.
If you're finished, bud, we would...
B.
And connective tissue that kills the momentum.
I can't believe you're going to let that moron move out of your room.
Marcy, you're assuming he can actually do this.
Marge vs. the Monorail has one unified engine. Every scene advances the same idea. And momentum never breaks. It never pauses to explain itself. It never lingers on a segment. It's constantly accelerating, just like the monorail, and all set to a storyline involving excitement over responsibility, with the whole town being swept up in a shared fantasy of progress that ignores consequence, competence, and common sense. Number 2, charisma versus substance. In a town meeting, Marge offers a practical solution to spend the $3 million to improve Springfield, but they choose Lyle Lanley's pitch with promises of progress, unity, and an identity upgrade. Emotional desire wins over practicality. There's just one person who isn't won over, Marge. She's the lone skeptic, hence the title Marge vs. the Monorail. Basically, Marge versus mass stupidity. Marge being the voice of reason, with the whole community being swept up by flashy ideas without thinking critically. And finally, weaponized incompetence. Despite the fact he has no training, no aptitude, and no interest in safety, Homer's given the job as the monorail conductor. It's a deliberate choice by Lanley. He knows Homer is gullible, eager for status, and won't question anything. Not just that, but if things go wrong, Homer becomes the scapegoat. The episode opens to the Flintstones theme tune playing to Homer reacting to the scene, though smashing through his car window in the process. The fact we see Homer asleep at his job reinforces his role as a character who is lovable but blissfully incompetent, something that is important for the audience to know. The intro ends with Homer driving into a chestnut tree through lack of concentration. Next scene moves to the power plant, where Lenny and Carl are sealing off a barrel of toxic waste. They openly wonder where it goes, but immediately shrug it off. This highlights Springfield's collective lack of accountability, which will be touched on later. It mirrors the larger theme of the episode: people ignore responsibility as long as the situation looks okay superficially. When they exit the screen, we see Smithers and Mr. Burns enter frame and consider absurd locations in which to dump nuclear waste before deciding on a public park. From the lower level workers to the higher ups, we're shown almost everyone in Springfield thrives on ignored responsibility. At the park, Mr. Burns and Smithers are arrested while attempting to hide the nuclear waste drums in a tree. The next scene, we see Mr. Burns stand before a judge who fines him $3 million for the illegal disposal of nuclear waste. Money is awarded to Springfield, giving the town a sudden, large windfall. The next morning over breakfast, Front Page News announces there will be a town meeting to decide how to spend the $3 million. We then get 3 different reactions. Lisa imagines the money being spent on school improvements, reflecting her practicality, intelligence, and long-term thinking. Bart imagines the money being given to him solely for reckless and destructive entertainment, showing his love of chaos and foreshadowing the town's eventual attraction to flashy but impractical projects. And Marge suggesting the money should go towards something that benefits the whole town, emphasizing civic responsibility and common sense. At the town meeting, everyone in Springfield attends. Mayor Quimby opens the meeting by attempting to skim $1 million off the top for himself, blatantly prioritizing personal gain over the town's needs. The scene establishes another example of self-interest and corruption at the top. Following that, everyone suggests boring but necessary fixes. Marge lastly proposes using the $3 million to repair Main Street, a practical and broadly beneficial solution. Initially, the townspeople go for it. It offers visible improvements everyone can understand. They imagine a nicer, cleaner, more comfortable environment, which gives an instant sense of pride and satisfaction. But the problem is, the people of Springfield deep down desire excitement and validation. They want Springfield to be a big, sensational town, something that's special and important. And this is where Lyle Lanley steps in. He knows this. His timing wasn't random, it was deliberate and strategic. Dropping the Monorail pitch immediately would have had less effect, so he waited. He knew he could redirect from practical ideas easily. Lyle Lanley understands Springfield's psychology, and the crowd was warmed up and the energy was high. When excitement was at its highest, he knew then he could strike and manipulate the momentum, something he's a master of. As is often said, it's never the salesman that people choose, it's the dream or promise that taps into what they feel they need. The Monorail solves their problem through image, not practicality. The town buys the fantasy, not the facts. That's not to say there's no resistance, critiques are still voiced, but instead of providing detailed evidence, he uses charm and false reassurance, even offering cushy jobs, appealing to the townspeople's laziness and avoidance of responsibility. He knows the people of Springfield well. He's observed their behaviour patterns, desires, and weaknesses. We know this because he's anticipated their objections and prepared deflections. And he won everyone over, everyone but Marge. Not to say that he didn't expect this, he knew Marge would be his greatest resistance. She is responsible, practical, and concerned with long-term consequences. But she's rational and polite, which makes her predictable, which means he can plan her opposition. The next scene we see him at the school, taking questions from the children. When Lisa opposes him, he quickly sees this is not a debate he could win or should engage in, so he deflects. He sees she's intelligent and assumes that's not recognised or she's not given the credit she deserves. Lanley first tests Lisa by telling her that that's the most intelligent question he's ever been asked. When Lisa bites, he goes in deeper, telling her he could give her a reason why a monorail is necessary in a small town like Springfield, but the only people who would understand would be he and her. We next see Lanley puts out an advert offering a monorail conductor position. The ad is specifically catered to lazy, unfulfilled layabouts, people who choose entertainment and personal gratification over responsibility and substance. Of course, this appeals to Homer for his love of excitement, fun, and easy rewards. Marge resists because she values practicality, responsibility, and long-term benefit. Marge's reaction of fear and concern builds when she reads Homer's monorail conductor's aptitude test. Homer is eventually chosen as the conductor due to the fact he perfectly embodies the town's weaknesses. But most importantly, he won't question or cause any disruption to Lanley's plan. And by this point, that's priority for him. Marge's concerns for safety are amplified when she finds no fire extinguisher on the train and a further lack of care from Homer. At this point, it's important to point out Marge doesn't believe Lanley is evil, just reckless, unreliable, or dangerously misguided. This is the reason she goes to speak with him about her concerns in his trailer. The turning point is when she stumbles upon his secret book containing a drawn-out depiction of the train failing and crashing. Believe it or not, it's a common trait for con artists to document their schemes. Charles Ponzi, who likely inspired the character, wrote out cash flows and projected returns. Lanley doesn't just think he can sell the monorail, he thinks he can control every variable. Ultimately, he believes, I'm smarter than everyone here, I can afford to be careless. Even when he sees Marge has found his notebook and questions her, to which she says she's seen nothing incriminating, he thinks, of course you didn't. You wouldn't know what you were looking at. He doesn't think Marge is stupid, but he can't comprehend she could work him out. Lanley believes he is operating on a higher level. He understands systems, crowds, money, and manipulation in ways she doesn't. In his mind, he thinks, she can sense something is wrong, but she can't see the whole game. This is the blind spot of manipulators. They assume intelligence only looks like their intelligence. Following this, Marge travels to North Haverbrook to find out if Lanley did this with the previous towns he sold the monorail to. She arrives to find the town run down and mostly abandoned. She then meets Sebastian Cobb, a man who Lanley hired to build North Haverbrook's monorail. He gives her insight into how Lanley cut corners, ignored engineering standards, designed the monorail to look impressive while being fundamentally unsafe. Following this, Springfield turns the monorail launch into a celebrity event. Guests and media attention reinforce the idea that this must be important or successful. By the time Marge and Cobb arrive back to warn the town, the monorail is already moving, with Homer at the controls. When things go wrong, and the biggest figures of authority get involved, they end up arguing over status rather than attempting to solve the situation. It reinforces that ongoing theme of appearance and spectacle being more important than responsibility. The two supposed leaders are then shown arguing while the train speeds uncontrollably in the background. When it seems the disaster is inevitable, Sebastian Cobb spots the only possible solution, an anchor to stop the runaway train. The solution is not technical, rational, or heroic. It's chaotic and improbable. Homer throws the anchor out the window, and through a combination of sheer luck and cartoon logic, it catches a giant donut on the track. The train grinds to a halt, jolting the passengers, but leaving them unharmed. The episode ends with a voiceover by Marge saying that was the only time the people of Springfield were won over by flashy, impractical ideas, before then showing other absurd projects like the 50-foot magnifying glass, the popsicle skyscraper, and the escalator to nowhere. The episode doesn't pretend people learn lessons. It shows the cycle of bad decisions sometimes can never end.